All right, this week it's going to be in Ephesians 4:17 through 5:2. Somebody want to read 17 through 22, and then somebody else read 22 through 29.
Yeah. This therefore I say and bear witness to in the Lord, that you no longer go walking just as the nations also walk in the unprofitableness of their minds, while they are in the darkness mentally and alienated from the life that belongs to God, because of the ignorance that is in them, because of the insensibility of their hearts, having come to be past all moral sense, they gave themselves over to loose conduct, to work uncleanness in every sort with greediness. But you did not learn Christ to be so, provided indeed that you heard him and were taught by means of him, just as truth is in Jesus.
Next. 23. 23, start at 23 and go to 27.
Well, it takes me a while to find these little numbers. And be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and that you put on the new man which was created according to God, in truth, righteousness, and holiness. Therefore, putting away lying, let each one of you seek truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your wrath. Start there, one more.
Now, I'll finish it. Nor give place to the devil. Let him who stole steal no longer, but rather let him labor, working with his hands that which is good, that he may have something to give him who has need. Let no corrupt word proceed out of your mouth, but what is good is necessary. Edification, that it may impart grace to the hearers, and do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God, by whom you were sealed from the day of redemption. Let all bitterness, wrath, anger, clamor, and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice, and be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, even as God in Christ forgave you. Somebody want to do 5 through 2? 5, 1 and 2.
Therefore, be imitators of God as dear children, and walk in love as Christ also has loved us and given himself for us an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet smelling aroma.
Well, there's a lot here in this week's lesson. Put on your new nature, created to be like God, truly righteous and holy. Okay. I'll start that out. I'm proud to be an American. America stands for freedom, democracy, and justice. Americans are friendly, hospitable, generous, and creative. We have some of the most beautiful scenery, music, and food in the world. We are a land of wealth and opportunity. On the other hand, our government seems to be broken. Our economic system makes the rich richer and the poor poorer. There are frequent mass shootings we can't control. Our borders, we are unfair to immigrants. We are unfair to immigrants. Americans are lazy, racist, arrogant, and ignorant. Yes, these are stereotypes, but there is some truth here. If you were to ask, should we act like typical Americans, I think the answer would have to be, it depends on what you mean. Well, that's kind of a sore subject for everybody. This is a great country, and that's the reason you have so many other countries wanting to come to our country, is because we do have a great country. We have freedoms that no other countries have, and one of our freedoms is to be able to choose the church we want to go to. We don't have to go to any given church or believe in any particular religion, and that's one of the freedoms we have. And that's what I like about America. We have freedom. We have freedom of choice, and we have opportunity to do things we want to do. And a lot of these other countries, third world countries, and even some of the bigger countries like China and Russia, they would love to flood our country with people. Now, when they were saying we were treating our immigrants bad, I don't see that. I really don't. If immigrants come into this country legally, they're treated real well. They do, the country treats them well. They bring them in. I don't know if y'all are aware, but in the United States, an immigrant, once they come into this country, they don't pay taxes for 12 years.
That's too long.
They don't pay any taxes for 12 years. And they get a lot of loans that me and you are not able to get because they're immigrants. Now, illegals that come in, that's a different story. So, last 4 years, illegals has gotten a lot of stuff they shouldn't have gotten, because what it does is overwhelms our system. And then when it overwhelms our system, then we don't have hospital care and other things for the Americans, and that's wrong, in my opinion. In my opinion, the American people should come first. And as long as we have extra beds and stuff in the hospitals, I can see that being a thing, but we don't. And they're not checked when they come across the border if they're illegal. So they bring new diseases into the country that we've eradicated over the years. So that's another bad thing that happens with illegals. But as long as they're legal, they've been checked, and they undergo all the scrutiny that the government puts them through, I'm all for it. You know, bring them in. As long as we got room for them, bring them in. But when we run out of room, then we get in trouble. There's a city in Michigan. Now, this is one of the things that I dislike about some of the immigrants that come in. There's a city in Michigan that has a call to prayer, I don't know, 3 or 4 times a day, and it's all through the city. It's run by Muslims. So everybody in the city hears these calls to prayer. Well, that messes up our law and separation of church and state. They're not supposed to be doing that, but they do it. And I don't really care for Sharia law, which they're wanting to put in that city. So there's a lot of things going on that is against what we do. And when an immigrant comes in, they're leaving a bad country, so why bring those bad things to this country?
It's kind of like God, we cannot come into heaven unless we have certain things that we have done.
Right.
And that them coming into the country, that we have certain things that they need to do.
Yeah. And they need to imitate our way of life, not bring their way of life here. Because apparently they're fleeing from their way of life, trying to get to a better country, so why would you want to bring that way of life here? Doesn't make sense to me. Just does not make sense.
Well, I think that, they take, the working class people here for granted,
I do too.
and that, they will give it to a foreigner instead of letting the people here have it.
I agree. I agree. The working class has fell really hard over the last 20 years, 25 years. The working class used to be a middle income. You weren't rich, you weren't poor. You were able to feed your children and clothe and drive a car and not be week to week. And if the wife needed to stay home, she could. That pretty much is one of the ways around. Everybody struggles. Everybody struggles. And that's what happens when you overdo your people coming in, because it takes away jobs from people. And of course, all the people that are coming in, and you know, y'all, I could be arrested for talking about this.
But not here.
Right. With all the people coming into our country, it takes away jobs from the Americans. And then when it takes away jobs from the Americans, our business owners are not stupid, so they know there's a flux of workers, so they're gonna drop that pay. Supply and demand. So if you got 10 people wanting to do the same job, the one that'll do it the cheapest is the one that's gonna get it.
That happened during the Great Dust Bowl.
Yeah, it is.
Same thing happened.
And it can happen again. Hopefully, we're gonna get it turned around, but we'll see.
But we have people here that, that's too lazy to work. They wanna live on welfare. And they say they can do better on welfare and they can't work and stuff.
You know, that to me tells me they're not a godly person, because we can do anything we want. Our increases can be what we want if we're doing it for God. So they're just giving up. They're saying God can't help me, so I'm gonna depend on the government, not God. That's the same thing that happened in Rome. Rome said, I'll take care of you, and I'm the God. Well, that's kind of what's going on in our country right now, is the government is God, and they're the ones that's gonna feed my children, feed me, take care of all my medical bills and all that. And that's just straight turning away from God is what that is. It's horrible, but it happens. It happens. Okay, somebody want to start with workout? Read a couple verses. Paragraphs. I'll get it right in a minute.
Paul reminded the Ephesians of the good news he was chosen to give them. Gentiles and Jews alike are part of God's kingdom. Now he tells the Gentile Christians not to live like Gentiles with the Lord's authority. I say this, live no longer as Gentiles do, for they are hopelessly confused, Ephesians 4:17. All people should know how to serve God, but the Gentiles have closed their heart and minds to Him. Had bad closed their hearts as minds, they all read that one. As a result, they had lived only for people their dark minds were influenced by the culture around them. They worshiped others' God, and because like those gods, if you study Greek or Roman mythology, you find that God full of lust, glory, and darkness and violence.
Are we seeing that today?
Yes.
The government wants to be your God, they do. I mean, over the last 4 years up to now, government wanted to be your God, wanted to control everything you say, do, and eat, and everything else. They wanted to control everybody in the U.S. That's a bad thing. Because if you notice, our country in the last 4 years made a 90-degree turn from what was moral before, and well, over the last 20 years, our country's made a grave moral direction. We're going the opposite direction. I mean, now you have trans in teaching in schools, teaching their way of life, and I'm not talking about seniors, I'm talking about grade school, first, second grade. That's horrible. I mean, they're indoctrinating them into exactly what they're talking about here, into those bad things. And that's what we've got to fix. We need, last week I said how few of Christians actually attend church every week. That's what's happening to the U.S. We're not fighting our fight. We're not standing up and saying, hey, this is wrong. We can't do these things. You have these gay parades and all that. Well, now we're starting to see people come out and at the parades against them, and that's what we should have been doing all this time. We should have been fighting against it. And now it's gotten out of hand, so it's going to be hard to curtail it again and get morality back to the U.S. That's going to be a hard thing to do, but we're going to have to do it. Somebody will read the last paragraph?
Could Paul say the same thing to us? Do not live like Americans because they are hopelessly confused. Americans tend to worship the gods of wealth, fame, and pleasure. We take our moral instruction from pop singers, actors, and billionaires. What can Christians do in such a culture? We can throw it off. Throw off your old sinful nature and your former way of life, which is corrupted by lust and deception. Ephesians 4:22. The picture here is of taking off old, worn, filthy clothes.
That's what we're going to have to do. One of my professors told me, he said, Jimmy, the problem we have in the United States right now is we're very forgiving people. We look at things we know are bad and we turn our head. He said, that's just as bad as doing it yourselves. Because by turning your head, you're consenting to it. You're not telling them you're wrong. You're consenting to what they're doing. So that's the reason that we have to stand up when people want to put us down. We have to show them who we are, why we do what we do. And that's what it says. Paul says for us to be ready to give a reason why we do what we do. And that's where we need to be. We're going to talk about it in Revelations tonight, but we will be held accountable for people that doesn't turn to Christ. If we know them and we have not confronted them and said, hey, your way of life is bad. Their blood is on our hands if we don't do that. So if we do that, then their blood is on their own hands. They have nothing to do. But when we see people doing bad things, we need to confront them and say, hey, this is not good. This is what the Bible says we're to do. and we need to stand firm in our belief and move forward, but we have to tell them. We have to tell them that, and people hate I'm one of the world's worst about confrontation. I hate confrontation, but I still know that's my thing that I have to do with God, and God wants me to do it, so I have to do it. I have to stand there and say, hey, this is wrong. And sometimes they're gonna be upset, sometimes they're gonna wanna talk about it, and that's why we have to be ready when they do. One of the big things that people talk about, and we might as well talk about it now, is they'll say, I can be gay and still be a Christian. They can't. It's not possible. But it does say, do not push them away. Because there's a long list. We pick out that one thing out of the scripture that says gay, but yet there's 20 other things in there. Fornication, and it's just a long list of them. We don't see those things. We pick that one thing. So when we condemn that person, we have to condemn all these other things too. And that's what we have to be careful of. Because believe it or not, those people know the Bible as well as we do. So when you say that you're condemned for this, then they're gonna say, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? And you need to be ready with your answer. Well, those are too. Those are just as bad as what you're doing. So that's why we need to be ready. That's why we need to be in church every Sunday learning this stuff, so that if we are confronted, we can answer those questions. Okay. Do y'all think Americans are confused right now? Now,
Some are.
a lot of the younger kids are confused. They don't know, they've been led astray, and Satan's working really hard overtime on this. When they pull the 10 Commandments, that hurt America bad. It don't sound like it's much, but it was a basis of a belief. It give you direction. And that's one of the things that the 10 Commandments do, is give you direction of where you're going. Now, I'll tell a quick story. There's a prison out in California. I don't know if I've told y'all this story or not. There's a prison out in California. They went through this study and they said, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna give all the prisoners a choice here. You can move to this side of the prison away from all the other prisoners if you want to do this deal. And they said, they went through it about 50%, 50 wanted to do it, 50 didn't want to do it. Well, what the good side of the prison did is they ate nothing but vegetables. That was their entirety of their diet. They had 3 Bible studies a day. They learned the 10 Commandments word for word. They did all these good things. They sang. And after about a month, that side of the prison, they started leaving the doors open for those prisoners, because they could come and go, because they would go in the middle of the night and go sit down with another prisoner in there and read the Bible with them, and they would study the Bible more. Well, after 5 years, they found out the recidivism rate went way down, where there would like 1% on this side of the prison where that was, and it was like 78% on the regular prison. And recidivism means they're coming back. They'll go out, commit another crime, they'll come back. Well, 78% of all the prisoners over there ended up coming right back. Only 1% on the other side. So we can change people, and we can change their direction, but we gotta get them out of the mainstream, because those are bad. One of the things that I found on TV that I love to watch is the Angel Channel. Have y'all ever seen that?
Yeah.
It's a good channel. It's a good channel. They go through it, all the people at Angel go through it, and there's good movies. I mean, we watched one last night, Senior. Yeah, it was really good. It's about an older guy that wanted to read. He had some regrets in his life and he wanted to change them. But it was a good movie. Some of them are tear jerkers, make you cry. There's some that's really good, really good. But those are the things that we need to be looking forward to and trying to get people to change direction. And if we can get them to change direction, then things will happen good in their life. Today, my sermon is the birth of a Christian, which we'll talk about a lot of this today. I don't know how this happens, but it does every week. I'll do the next part. New clothes. One of the little joys of life is putting on new clothes for the first time. The look, the feel, the smell, and the fit makes us feel like new people. It is not enough to take off our old way of life. We must let the Spirit replace it with new thinking and new living. Ephesians 4:23-24. What do these new clothes look like? Any answers?
Well, I'd say that, the old people that you used to run with, you get away from them and have new people to be with.
That's right. All the old stuff that you used to think was fun and enjoyable are no longer gonna be fun and enjoyable. You're going to, a lot of new Christians, when they're born, they'll come back to church and they'll say, you know, my friend said I was glowing. That's the happiness, the joy that they've got in their life. That's one of the things that people will see in new Christians is the joy that they have in their life. They feel better. All this bad stuff's been relieved from them. All this worry, guilt, and everything else has been relieved, and now they feel good. And that's one of the things you look at in a new Christian.
Well, people can tell the difference in you as, you congregate with other people. They see how you change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when you make the new friends, people are gonna say, well, I never seen him with them. Well, no. You know? And that's what happens is your life changes, and that's what Paul's trying to get to everybody, is if you're truly a Christian, and there's a lot of people that gets dunked. I mean, there's tons of people that just gets dunked in the water and nothing changes. Normally when a person gets dunked, they're gonna come up with tears in their eyes. That's one of the good signs that that person really wants to change. Because they're gonna feel it, they're gonna know it. And when they come back up, they're really gonna know it. So that's one of the good things, and it is an amazing life if you follow it through. If you do what God says, there would be so much more. Our world would be so different if we did what God said. It wouldn't be where we are today. We wouldn't have all the abortions. We wouldn't have all the murder, you know, and thank goodness we've got Trump up in Chicago. He's lowering the murder rate there. There was 7 to 10 people getting killed every weekend there, and Lord knows how many shot. So that stuff's got to get stopped. We've got to slow this stuff down. And one of the worst things that the government has ever done, in my opinion, is give out welfare checks. Just to anybody. And that's the bad thing. We shouldn't be doing that, because that demeans that person, whether they want to realize it or not. It demeans it. You know, it was back in 60s and 50s, people would not accept that stuff because they were embarrassed to do it. And we've grown from that to now to where they're out begging for it. Give me that free money. and nobody wants to work for it. Okay, let's move on. Somebody want to do the next paragraph, or next two paragraphs? It's big, but
Christians have a new language, a new way of speaking. We no longer lie, but I've never lied, you may say. Really, never given a false compliment, never exaggerated your accomplishments, never lied to protect someone else. Now we take off those lies and speak the truth in love to our neighbors, Ephesians 4:25. We also used our language to abuse others. This is the problem with cussing. Not that certain words are wrong in themselves, but that we use words to abuse others. I have known Christians who would never say bad words, but who constantly run other people down. Instead, our new language is this: let everything you say be good and helpful, so that your words will be encouragement to those who hear them. Ephesians 4:29. We replace bad words with good ones and abusive words with encouraging words.
that's a choice. You know, everybody will say, well, it was just a little white lie. There is no such thing as a white lie. A lie is a lie is a lie. Just like a sin is a sin is a sin. So little white lies are the same thing as big lies. And we do that. I mean, people will say, well, how do I look? You don't want to hurt their feelings. You don't want to say, that looks horrible. But yet, we should. We should say, well, maybe you should have wore something else a little different to make you look better, you know, or something different. But we should be truthful about everything, and that's one of the things. And as far as cussing, we shouldn't be doing that. That's not a good sign of a Christian.
Jenny, when we were in church in Shreveport, the pastor's wife, she challenged us to this little test she was doing. And she said, for 10 days, don't say anything negative at all for 10 days. If you do, you have to start over. You know, it was amazing how many times I had to start over. And it was a lot of driving, a driver or something in front of me, you know, and I wouldn't cuss, but I would say, you moron or something. That's negative. And I thought, oh, I have to start over. So I must have started over 25, 30 times, but it got less and less as time went on. You know, I didn't do it as much as the months went on, but it was a hard thing to do because I got in the habit of saying things like that. You know, what was it? I said something. Are you stupid or what? That was something I would say, and that's very demeaning to somebody, you know? So it was hard to get out of the habits that I had got into over the years, thinking, well, I'm not cussing, I'm not doing really bad because I'm not cussing, I'm not saying cuss words. And then I realized when Kathy brought this up, that yeah, sometimes you can be demoralizing, demeaning, and hurtful without even saying a cuss word, you know, to somebody. So I think that's what this was talking about when it was saying, but continually run other people down instead of, you know. So I learned to say things like, if somebody cut me off or something, I would say, oh, God bless you, you know, or something positive instead of something negative. It's not easy, it's hard, you know, in that other habit.
It's a choice to get out of bad habits.
Yeah, it's a bad habit.
Especially when they get to the stop sign 10 seconds before you do.
Well, my biggest thing in Louisiana when we lived there was a person's coming out to turn, you know, he's coming this way and you're going straight, say like on the highway. There's nobody behind me, but he would cut right out in front of me instead of waiting just a couple seconds till I passed And every time they would do that, I'd look in my mirror to think there must be a bunch of traffic and they wanted to get out there. There was nobody behind me. And I thought, you couldn't wait 2-3 seconds for me to pass, you had to cut me off. You know, that would just really, oh. But I learned to deal with it, you know.
Just wave at them.
No, I just thought, well, you know, maybe they're in a hurry, maybe something's going on that they have to get down the road, you know, so.
Impatient.
Yeah, and they're impatient, yeah. So.
Robert Morris told a story. He said when he first started at Gateway, one of the elders was over there, and he said this car pulled out in front of him on the way to church. And he said, I flipped over the other lane, went by him, I was shaking my fist at him. And he said, when I got to church, I went in, and the elder said, in a hurry this morning, Robert?
Well, I have been around people that wasn't Christian, and some of them was kinfolk. And, they would normally, they wouldn't cuss and stuff around.
Right.
But, if they did, they would apologize for it. So they knew that I was a Christian, and they tried to be on their best side.
Well, they knew that was wrong. That's
Yeah.
the reason.
That's,
They knew they had slipped up, and all, right away, they were saying, I'm sorry.
yep,
They should be telling you sorry.
should be telling God.
God, they're sorry.
Yeah. You know, that is what's really funny is they didn't want to offend you, but yet they didn't bother them to offend God. That is the bad thing. But you're right, there is. And, you know, we just have to push forward.
But we know too, when that happens, that undoubtedly we have made some kind of impression on them, that they were different. And they realize that they can see it, but
Yeah.
whether it's enough to really change them, most time it doesn't. But they're aware of it.
It's all about their environment. That's what it's about. If you're in an acceptable environment, you're more apt to do those things than if you're in, like if you're sitting with Bob and other people that are Christians, you're not gonna do it. So they do have a hold on it. They know when they do bad. They just need to hold that hold all the time and not let go of it. Okay, where are we at? We're at
New tongue.
a new tongue. Christians have a new language, a new way of speaking. We no longer lie, but I've never lied. Oh, we've already done that one, haven't we? That's what I thought, a new disposition. Or have we?
Yeah, we
Yeah, we've
did.
done the tongue. We're
Okay.
on new disposition.
New disposition, okay. Bad speech comes from a bad heart. A bad disposition, often it comes from anger. There are a lot of angry people in our land. Angry at the government, angry at immigrants, and Democrats and Republicans, at our own co-workers and families. So anger is unavoidable, but we are told, don't sin by letting anger control you. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. While you're still angry, for anger gives a foothold to the devil. Ephesians 4:26 and 27. But it isn't enough just to control our anger. We put on the new clothes of Jesus. Instead, be kind to each other. Tender-hearted, forgiving one another, just as God through Christ has forgiven you. When even those closer to us betray us, it is right to be angry. But we have a new mind, now a mind that remembers that God was right to be angry at us, but he forgave us through Christ, so we also forgive. That's one of the hard things to do, is forgive people. And I hear people say, well, I'll forgive them, but I'm not forgiving. You can't, those two don't go together. If you forgive somebody, it's gone. Never happened. When God forgives us, he puts the sin in the deepest part of the ocean. And I think I told y'all that story about the little boy at the grocery store where he said, Mama, I bet when we get home, you're going fishing. So it is, it's hard to forgive. It really is. It's one of the things that, as Christians, we have to fight every day to be able to forgive people and truly forgive them as if it never happened. And, you know, we all get angry, and I think that's just part of life. Jesus got angry. He overturned the money changers. He killed an olive tree. So, I mean, it's normal nature to get angry. It's what we do with the anger. You know, we can make it positive, we can make it good. And if it's a righteous, there's two kinds of anger. There's worldly anger and there's righteous anger. Righteous anger is what Jesus did. He did it because of God. He did it protecting God and showing these people that they were wrong. And he did it strongly, and I think he felt like he needed to do it that strong for them to understand. All right. We got enough time to do a new work ethic. Somebody want to read that one?
Paul then tells them to quit stealing. This is where Paul may miss us. After all, surely none of us have ever been thieves, but have we ever cut some corners in our taxes or expense reports? Have we ever coasted at work and not given full effort for our pay? We are familiar with slacker culture. Instead, our culture urges us to have a strong work ethic for the sake of the economy. Paul says our new clothing also includes an ethic of hard work, but not so we can have more or get promoted. No, we work hard so we can give generously to others in need. Ephesians 4:28.
That's true. People, well, I know y'all don't know Robert Morris, but he actually wrote a book. What was the name of that book? It was about giving. But this man was one of the biggest givers I've ever seen in my life. He gave his home away 3 times. People he didn't know. They were people that didn't have a place to live. And at that time, it was just him and his wife. And he owned the home. And a couple showed up with 4 kids and didn't, and I'll just tell you about the one, but this couple showed up and they didn't have anywhere to go. They were on the street, and Robert said, y'all can't be on the street. So he went home and told Debbie, he said, Debbie, we can't leave these people on the street. And she said, so what are we gonna do? He said, God wants me to give it to him. And so he did. He gave them the house. And him and Debbie rented an apartment, and then they finally bought another house. But that's giving out of your heart. And Robert was one of the biggest givers I've ever seen in my life. That man could be a mega billionaire like the other big preachers, but he's not. He lives in a regular home, nothing big fancy or anything. Kind of like Dr. Fair, Church of Christ that taught in Harding was a doctor in Searcy. He lived in a normal, nice little house, and that was it. But he built hospitals throughout the world with his money. He wasn't earning that money for him. He was earning it for. Good morning.
Hello.
How y'all doing?
Good.
Good. He was earning it through. He was making that money to build hospitals for people in third world countries. So he was a good man too. Let's take a break, folks, and we'll be back at 11.